Rezolve AI is a public company with over $200 million a year run rate. They're global and they have a complete agentic commerce suite and also over 900 customers across the globe and 1,400 employees. And half of those are engineers. Today's guest is Elizabeth Lachhar. She is the Executive Vice President of the Americas for Rezolve. In this discussion, we go over Elizabeth's background, why she took the role at Rezolve after working at some of the larger brands that you will recognize, the capabilities that Rezolve is bringing to market across the Agentic Commerce suite. This is all on-site Agentic Commerce, which is an area you're going to see us talk about a lot more because we're getting a lot of the audience is very curious about that part of things. We always talk about offsite is kind of how I'd frame this, ChatGPT and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of happening on site as well, and then even back office. We probably won't go back office, but the on site is very much in our wheelhouse. In her role, not only does she spend a ton of time talking to the existing 900 customers that are in the Americas, but she also is growing the business. And in that role, she's talking to literally hundreds of brands and retailers through her team and directly about what do they want to achieve with agentic commerce, where are they today, what are their concerns, and we tap into that as well. Finally, we are able to get her predictions on where agentic commerce is going. I learned a ton from in this conversation with Elizabeth. You can tell she is a very experienced executive at selling the vision of agentic commerce. So I really enjoyed learning a lot from her and the conversation overall, and hope you do as well. Welcome to this episode of Retailgentic. I'm excited to have on today's episode the Executive Vice President of the Americas at Rezolve AI, Elizabeth Lachhar. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for being here, Scott. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and we just discovered we're both in North Carolina. So I'm in Raleigh and you're in Charlotte. So we're enjoying a beautiful North Carolina day here today.
We are.
But instead, we're inside podcasting.
Happy to be here. Sad we couldn't be in person, but next time.
Well, we have an awesome topic. You guys are a company that I've wanted to get on for a while. And fortunately, one of your PR people reached out. And I was like, oh, this is fortuitous. Let's start before we get into what Rezolve does. And I have the benefit of seeing your booth at Shop Talk and following what you guys are doing. So I know the answer, but I think not all the audience knows. But before we get there, you have a really awesome background. I'd love to hear what you did before Rezolve.
Oh, I appreciate that. I feel very proud, but also I feel very happy that I've had a very meaningful career. But who am I? I'm a business leader, an exec business leader who have worked with enterprise companies around the world. I've had the privilege of working on very large digital and business transformation programs, working with large teams, ex-Microsoft, ex-Google, ex-Oracle. Some of those transformation programs were working with huge beauty and tech company, a beauty company that wanted to be a tech company. So helping them with their beauty and tech strategy, which gave them increased revenue. So that was really fun. Another large program I worked on was a alcoholic beverage company that wanted to get into a new category, which was non-alcoholic beverages. And about 7 years ago, that wasn't a thing. And now, we know insights and wellness is top priority for a lot of cultures. And that has been a hot topic. So really proud to bring them increased revenue, and worked with a European grocer who is trying to break out into new markets, into the Americas. And now that's looking like 10% of their growth revenue. So I've done that in market with large enterprise companies, working at Microsoft, Google, and many others, and building incredible high performing teams to be in market and be as relevant as possible. So it's been a really fun career. I think the best part about being in retail and consumer goods and food and hospitality is that we're all consumers of the space. So we get to participate in what it looks like. And when we're building great tech that improves consumer experience, but also business, we can see the results. So that's really, really fun and very meaningful. So very happy to be here. Thanks.
So let's see, you did Computer Associates, Oracle, Google, Microsoft. That's a pretty good portfolio. How did you get into the CPG world? I know at Microsoft and I think Google you did CPG. Was that what you were doing at Oracle as well?
No, I did retail at Oracle.
Retail, still kind of in the biz.
Yeah. And I started my career in New York City in global FSI. I think what's exciting about all of that is I've always been in the future of tech. Why I love that is because, we remember when the internet came out, um, well, 50 years ago. Everyone thought it was a black hole, and now we use it for information. We also know that at one point we were told that we'd never have consumer banking apps, and our face opened them up, and now they're on our phones and we use them daily. So when you think about the tech transformation and what e-commerce used to be over 30 years, and what we need it to be now, we know that there's a transformation about to happen. And that's the exciting journey. I think it's really what inspired me to come to Rezolve AI.
Yeah, us talk about that. So I've always been on startups, but you were at really big companies. It doesn't get bigger. Well, I guess there's so you've got the U.S. government, and then you've got like a Walmart, and then you've got Amazon, and then Microsoft, Google, those types of businesses. I imagine Resolve is much smaller. And what convinced you to take the plunge into kind of a more entrepreneurial early stage organization?
Well, I've always been a builder. I think I'm a natural builder. And I think that, again, in business outcomes and building tech, but also in building teams and people. So that's always really makes me thrive. And I think Microsoft always has that, but has this incredible ability to be enterprise ready. Google had this incredible ability to be innovative, and they were third in the market in cloud. So that was very much a challenger opportunity, but a really great one when you talk about going direct to consumer. So that was a sweet. When you combine them, I think it's a perfect marry match when you think about going enterprise end to end, but also being innovative. And that's what really brought me to Rezolve AI, because Dan Wagner, our CEO, is an incredible visionary. And Rezolve isn't a startup. I mean, we've been around for 10 years, and we have over 1,400 employees around 5 continents. So I consider myself a global citizen, and I've always worked with companies that have been around the world. So I really appreciate that. And the vision of Dan and the board is incredible, and continues to be incredible, and very strategic on and being the best agentic commerce company end-to-end platform in the world. So very proud of that. I was very excited to be in the space at this kind of build level. But also we have 900 customers already. So we're not a startup. We've been around for 10 years. There is proof in the technology, but the technology also is why I came. So I'm a little bit of I wouldn't say a technologist, but I'm a little bit of a tech geek in the sense that I like working with good tech. Half our company is engineers and exceptional. Our leadership team is exceptional and inspiring, incredibly bright, and exactly what I think we need. I was brought in to help really get continue to have our company be enterprise ready, and really be board level with our enterprise retail, consumer goods, food and hospitality customers. So I feel very honored to be here, but also very excited to be part of where the market is going, and also where we're bringing our customers to their next levels.
Yeah, let's unpack what Resolve does. So you said it sounds like the short pitch is end-to-end agentic commerce, which is like, that sounds amazing. But give us some like I know you have a suite. I've spent some time on the website, and imagine each suite is going to address part of that one end to the other end. What's kind of your pitch for folks that are your cocktail party? Like how you help people? Well, a cocktail party full of retailers and CPG people, so that this is not just randos that aren't going to really know what this is, but how do you explain what Resolve does?
Right. So we are an end-to-end, as I mentioned, agentic commerce platform. It starts with that discovery and visualization, search and merch, so e-commerce, everything, and conversational is the hot topic often. I mean, we can't get enough conversational commerce meetings, to be honest. And then checkout and loyalty, bringing our customers to that agentic commerce journey. And that can be, human to agent, and that can be agent to agent. So what's exciting about that is, and we also have geolocation. So when you're talking about fast food companies, that when you're doing, pre-orders on apps, and you want to drive through, and you want that hyper personalization speed through your drive-through, then you have the opportunity where those customers will recognize you and your orders, and offer some additional recommendations, or just immediately check out, and you can drive through with speed. So we do geolocation as well.
Yeah, so most of our guests are like really focused on the product part of e-commerce. It seems like you guys do that, but then you have a kind of like a restaurant food service business piece as well. Would you call it like quick serve? Is it like, or does it all the food? Is there a certain part of food that you focus on?
It's mostly, yeah, the quick service food is kind of, it is a specialty really, and just identifying where customer locations are, and that order to deliver opportunity.
And then you said hospitality, and the way that translates to me is there must be a travel component, which could be hotel, flight, the whole travel, industry. Is that another segment you guys think about?
Yeah, that's right. And actually that's a growing segment, and really that conversational hyper personalization, again, especially for hotels, right? A lot of the guests are saying, we don't want to just show up to a hotel. We want to know where the location is, what's around the location, what restaurants they have, particular needs like allergy needs for feathers, or want to bring their dog. All those questions they don't want to, old school call for, they want to ask. And some people have special needs they need for their rooms, and we know that flat 2D e-commerce experience isn't really providing them with that full stay experience, and they're looking, where do I run, is it safe, how do I get a taxi, how far are you from an airport, all those things. And we know hotel staffs are only getting slimmer, so that experience and that customer service needs to be there. So that's a lot of the asks that we're getting for hospitality. And same with travel. We know that people have disruptive travel, and they have a lot of questions around tickets and the T's and C's around their tickets. So that's a lot of conversations we're having.
And then I think this is a great framework. I just want to like unpack it a little bit to make sure if I understand, then the audience understands. I think I do, but like, well, you can fact check me. So it seems like when you say discovery and visualization, so you're going into, there's probably an existing. And let's just stay in my little e-commerce world because I understand it better. I wouldn't know what to talk about on the restaurant or the flight side, but so they're already using some kind of an e-commerce platform, which is the cart and that kind of thing. And then you guys sit above that. I imagine you're not competing with Shopify or BigCommerce or Salesforce. So you're sitting above that. You're offering, and when you say discovery and visualization, so discovery to me says you're kind of going in and either augmenting or replacing the website's search engine, and maybe the search engine result pages, and maybe even the browse tree or something, and maybe even the PDP, the product detail page. So that would be the visualization. Is that kind of like what that piece does?
That's exactly right. And that just gives the consumer more availability. It also gives the merchants more control as to what shows up first in that prioritization. I think that's really, really important when you're talking about cart conversion, but also inventory or lack thereof, when times are a bit different with the geopolitical landscape and things like that. So I think it gives the ability to have merchants have the control as to what merchandise shows up, the search and ability, but also if you're looking at how do you come up on the search page, if it is an agent to agent experience looking for you, how are you found? All of that comes up into that kind of bucket. But it's especially vibrant when you're talking to B2B customers, is also a stream that we work with, because they have incredibly technical SKUs with lots of numbers and letters, and they could have over a couple millions. We work with RS, which is a really large B2B customer of ours, public, and they have over 5 million SKUs, and they're very heavy in numbers and letters. So when their B2B customers are looking for particular products, it's without us, they couldn't be found. But with us, it could easily be found, and that includes SKU opportunities, but product descriptions and visualization.
Yeah, my previous company called ChannelAdvisor, it was like we were in it for 20 years. The first 15 years was all B2C companies, and then we started to add some B2B. It was really fun to go on site because inside of everyone is like some guy named Larry or something like that, and he's got this giant book in front of him, and that's like the master catalog. And Larry's like, oh, you need, and he like goes zip, bloop, and he gets somewhere within 2 pages of what he's like, and then he'll like rattle off 18,000 letters and characters, and that's he's the discovery engine. So it's not super scalable by any means.
Exactly. And that, and you think about it, that's probably been the last, 50 to 80 years. But I talk about this often. Sorry, I don't mean to derail, but I love this topic. When you think about like Gen Z and Gen Alpha that are coming into the workforce very soon, if they're doing B2B, they will not have the patience to look through a big book, right? And they won't have the patience to sit for 15 minutes looking through SKU numbers either. And we know that the faster something is found, the faster it's ordered, and the faster there's conversion. And then that's the commerce bit of it, which is brilliant. So we're all in it to help our customers make more revenue.
I imagine your pitch is so you guys are really leaning into this agentic commerce piece, which to me means before 2022 there was probably like 50 different search engines you could add to your website and discovery platforms, like literally 50 of them. I won't even name all of them. And the new innovation, I imagine, is because so you're probably Gen AI or LLM based, right? So you're using the new technology underneath, and then you're also able to and this is where the conversational commerce comes in. So now I imagine that's an agent that's on there, right? So just like your version, everyone can have their own Rufus or Sparky is kind of like how I would translate that, so everyone can understand it. And now between those two things, you can have like that up leveled type of discovery engine, and the LLM, just like ChatGPT, is really good at helping you off your webs, helping consumers find things. Now you can add that level of search onto your site, and now you can have your own conversational piece. Is that kind of like the pitch of why folks should look at this new way of doing things versus the old way?
So thank you for that. I would say it's even more than that. Our differentiator is that we have our own IP LLM. So we have a closed LLM. Now, customers ask us to use both our LLM, which is we've been training in retail and consumer goods and food for the last 10 years. It's closed. It does not hallucinate. And this is really our differentiator. Why our customers are lining up to have meetings. We don't have enough time in the day for the meetings, to be honest, which is fabulous. But also what our differentiator is. Now, our customers have asked us to use both. Sometimes when you go out of cycle, like an example of a hotel that wants you to do open table or get a reservation, then we can use we can use OpenAI or Gemini. But when it comes to ticketing or reservations specifically, then we'll use our closed LLM. And what's great about that is the levels of security. What's also really great about us is that we're modular. So a lot of customers come to us and say, hey, do we build, do we buy out of the box? And we say, what's best for you? And we build it around them, right? So they can use our LLM, which is fabulous, or you can use a percentage of it. Our search discovery is more meaningful when you can do conversational on top of that search and discovery. But I think the whole goal is to have a really intelligent LLM. So you have a very hyper-personalized experience. It isn't a chatbot. It still isn't that tree where something comes up and you click it and then it still goes into an agent black hole of please call customer service, or a real agent is coming on. I mean, this is a real conversation. It remembers as well. So you're not kind of like starting from scratch every single time. So there's so it's really, really smart. I mean, one thing I'm so proud of for us is that in our 1,400 employees, we have half of that being engineers, and they're just incredible. And I think coming from a Microsoft and a Google, that's very meaningful to me, and our customers expect that and really trust us for that reason.
And I think your LM is called Brainpower. Is that right?
Brainpower. Yeah.
Okay, I want to keep going through the list. Checkout and loyalty. So that I imagine. This time you give the pitch. So I have a checkout already. Why should I use your checkout, Elizabeth?
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. So we have a wallet. We have a wallet that actually has crypto as well, and I think you can have many things in your wallet, which is fantastic. But what's sensational about Rezolve Pay, especially for international customers, is they don't always have traditional means to pay. Also, they may want to use crypto for sake of privacy. So it gives them that ability to have that level of privacy. And we know that international customers are really, really keen to use that. We're building out an additional, more to come on that. We have it ready now, but we'll expand it even further, which will be very, very exciting. And I think it goes back to, Dan Wagner, our CEO, and what a visionary he is, and the board as well, because they're seeing the world of agentic, and we can't really be agent to agent without transaction. And we need different aspects of transactions, but and pay. And ultimately that services the consumer in a way that they can have additional methods of payment, but it also services the merchants because they have less um, uh, charges on the back end of that. And we know that that really eats into their margins. So I think it's a win-win across the board, and especially as we get more into speed. And again, going back to the generational gaps that we're seeing, generation alpha, being those children that are born 2010 are now worth 200 billion in influenced consumer buying power, and in 2030 they'll be worth 5 trillion around the world of buying power, and they're digital natives and born digital, and they're going to not want to do 7 clicks to pay anything. They're used to this social experience where they pull up social and they click buy, and you have a wallet already, and some of them are buy now pay later. So there'll be lots of different options. It's a completely different world of pay, and we're the only company that really has that availability to do it now.
They also were born on TikTok, so they have about a 30-second attention span. So,
That's exactly right.
You got to get them an answer quick and get them to the checkout. Yeah.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. But when you're talking about 5 trillion of total addressable market, I mean, and that's just 4 years away. So, we're in the era now. I mean, which is why I love your topics, because I think people underestimate how we are in the world of agentic now.
It's happening way faster than people are, I think, realize. I need you to help me go fight the naysayers. We'll talk next shop talk. You can be on my side, and we'll bring our swords and go attack our virtual swords, and then
I just inspire and delight with proof and data. So I no sir.
That's nice. Taking the high road. I got it. I think a lot of people would see the crypto thing and not understand it. And at ChannelAdvisor, we started to do a fair amount of business in Latin America in partnership with Mercado Libre. They're the big marketplace down there. It was fascinating to learn that every country has its own payment mechanism, which is a total pain. But then they 100% don't trust their government or the currency, and so it's very hard to do e-commerce there because people don't want to, and their currency fluctuates so much. But by the time they buy something and get it, its value has changed dramatically. So they do this weird COD thing. Was like, this is back in the day, was kind of like how, or they do like a time payment, so they can kind of like almost dollar cost average what they pay for something in case their currency like whips around on them. So I could, and I noticed your EVP of the Americas, which implies North and South America. So I imagine that feature would be wildly popular in the Southern hemisphere, with especially like Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela. Those countries have a pretty high e-commerce now, and they're I bet they would really like that part of the checkout situation. And then they're also big consumers of cross-border trade. So any U.S. company doing that, is that kind of like a use pattern you see for that part?
That's that's exactly right. And I think you said it brilliantly, in the sense that their financial infrastructures aren't solid. And also some of the biggest luxury international customers want to be private as well. And we know if they're using traditional means of methods, then it's more visible. So there's that element of it, but also just having the availability and to transact. Absolutely. And South America, yes, I'm the EVP of Americas, which includes Canada and South America and Mexico as well, which is wonderful, in North America as well. And that is absolutely the case. But I think we'll see this grow. I really do. I think we'll see this grow in cross borders as well, even in the Americas to come. I think this will be a growing market.
And then on the products, I think so. I went through all the way through checkout. Was there one you said before geolocation?
So we have discovery, visualization, search and merch, conversation, checkout, and loyalty. So I did want to kind of reference loyalty.
Let's talk loyalty. That's a hot topic because Copilot just came out with a UCP implementation that ties to Target's Circle, whatever is that, Circle Club or what that's called. So what do you do with loyalty?
Every merch is looking for loyalty, and we know the life cycle of a customer is really where long-term revenue growth is. And we also know data monetization and understanding the buying power and categories of consumer is data king and queen, right? You can monetize that. You can understand growth trends and categories for the future. So there's so much there in the goodness of having loyalty and understanding your consumer base. But especially when you're doing at transaction and checkout, then you can monetize that data and really understand what the next step is and bring them back again for that full life cycle of a customer. Again, going back to bringing them back, it's not just bringing them from a search to your e-commerce brand site. And we know that in 2014, everyone was doing e-commerce directly to brand. That was 82%, and now it's 38%, where they're everywhere transacting, not on the brands. So how do you get your brand out there to really transact and have them continue to be loyal is what we do with an acquisition we just made. So again, going back to the full life cycle of a customer, but the full life cycle of an e-commerce journey for a brand, I think is why Rezolve AI is just really sensational.
Yeah, you can see it all tying together, right? So if you have memory and you've got the loyalty program, and maybe the loyalty program captures in-store and online transactions like a Sephora or Ulta or like that type of thing, and or even like the Target one, and then now the customer comes back to your website and they're having that conversation. The conversation can be much more targeted because the LLM has all this context of not only the conversation and the product catalog, but also the past purchases. So if Elizabeth likes this one certain elf product, and now she's talking about it, or she has a brand preference, let's surface that first versus other things, just because that's probably what she would most likely be interested in. So it just makes the whole experience better when it all ties together. But we could never do that before because the LLM is the piece that kind of glues it together.
That's right, and you know too that retailers are really trying to bridge the gap of footfall to online back to footfall, and to have more connectivity. And consumers are really asking for that to happen seamlessly. Do you know me? Do you know where I started and stopped? If you don't have it in store, can you deliver it to me and know what I like? If it's out of, especially the beauty industry, as you mentioned, Elf, but especially if there's cosmetics that are out, what can replace it? Does it work for my skin tone? All those beauty and tech and options of replacement. And again, connecting the user experience on the front with the back end of supply, I think is a sweet spot. And again, knowing your data. And it's no longer data as one source of truth, because no company's really completely mastered that in one spot. But what's beautiful about the current era that we're in is that we now can be in this microservices environment, or these module environments where we can pull data from so many sources. And I think that's where Agentic AI makes it absolutely an incredible opportunity to have your brand represented as a customer full experience, and bringing that data environment to service them better and ultimately convert higher.
So this has been good. Now I kind of understand the capabilities you guys have from the end-to-end piece. And we know Brainpower is the LLM. So you have Brain Suite, Brain Commerce, Brain Checkout. I can guess what that one is. And then Brain Assist. Is Brain Suite the name for the whole thing? And so it's like a super brand. And then Brain Commerce is the on-site search engine. The agent is Assist. Like
Yep,
the conversational
exactly
is
right.
Assist.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Checkout. Okay, I think I got them all. Okay, I understand now.
I just want to kind of reiterate kind of the module play on our end-to-end platform, because I think that, we talk a lot about, when you've mentioned kind of protocols, and we don't have to geek out on protocols, but I think it's also like, and you brought up, a few other things. I think what makes us incredible is that on us, you don't have to play with the protocols, who's on what, doing where, because customer and our merchants won't experience that on Rezolve AI. So regardless of who's, aligned with agentic infrastructure, you'll be seamless on Rezolve AI. So I think that's a big differentiator. And I think there's a lot to build and consider as a merchant in this path. And I think it just makes it easier being on Rezolve.
Okay, so you have 900 customers. There's some travel. There's some restaurant. Then there's like our kind of physical goods kind of world. Within that 900 customers, to the extent you can say, like, is it mostly brands or retailers? You have kind of a mix. Like where do you fall in that that kind of side of things?
A lot of retailers, I mean, obviously we love the discovery and search and merch kind of aspect of things. So I think, fashion and specialty is a natural one. Liverpool is a big customer of ours. They represent Gap and Banana Republic out of Mexico. And they use us publicly. I mean, it's a publicly referenceable company on search and merch and enrich data. And they're growing themselves, so that's fabulous.
They're like a digital agency. I'm not familiar with Liverpool.
No, they represent the Gap and Banana Republic online for all of Mexico.
Oh, so they're like in Australia, Target is like some other company that like uses the Target brand kind of thing.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly
Gotcha.
right. Exactly.
Okay.
But they service the e-commerce journey complete out of Mexico.
I got it.
And we also work. One of our large customers out of the Americas is Rebag. They have luxury, sustainable resell handbags. So it's searching the right handbag and style and color and quality and all of those really great things. And then as I mentioned, RS is a huge B2B customer with over 5 million SKUs, which is a lot. So
B2B customers can really stress the system.
And there's many more, right? I can't share something. We have a large beauty consumer brands customer that is using us for 50 plus brands. And part of that is just how do you have that ingredients and personalized experience when you're doing your search and visualization online, even if you're in scents and perfumes, how do you really enhance that experience? Luxury fashion. We have a partner with Fashionable as well, and you can take a picture of yourself as an avatar and try clothes on, which is really fun. So you get that full e-commerce experience. And we find that when people have themselves in the mix, that they're not just looking for a blouse, then they get to see the skirt or the trousers and the shoes, and they buy a capsule instead of, so the upsell is really great. It actually 3X's it. And already, we have 25+% conversion. So, I mean, we could go on and on, but I mean, people get very excited about the opportunity to see, I'm not just looking for a blouse, I want to see what it goes with. And again, when you add kind of the conversation on top, when you're saying, okay, I'm going to a garden party, and the weather is going to be hot, you want silk and not something wool. So you have the opportunity to really kind of dig into what would work at a garden party.
Just so I understand your role, EVP, it can imply a lot of things. It can be kind of like a sales role, or it can all be more like a GM where you own the P&L. Where do you fall on that spectrum of responsibilities?
So I think it's all of the above. I'm in it to, grow the revenue of our customers in the Americas, Canada, and South America. That includes, bringing agentic commerce at a greater scale to market, and really changing how enterprises and retailers do that, which I'm really excited to dig into more. And also, I'm most proud of building an incredible team. So it always starts with people, and that's people that are driven and actually love the retail, consumer goods, food, and hospitality space. Have bringing the energy, they're customer obsessed, and really we're digging into those use cases. So we have some more relevancy when we're talking to our customers, and we're talking to the VP of commerce, we're talking to the CFOs, we're talking to the VP of engineering, we're talking to CMOs. I mean, it can be very vast in terms of the conversation and where it could go and what the real return on value is. And what we're finding is that our customers are demanding that we see a return on value less than 12 weeks. And we're doing that because we have to track success. And I think that's important for everyone on this e-commerce journey, but also on the agentic journey as well.
One of the reasons I love having folks like you on the pod is you're able to I'm talking to my set of people, and you're talking, but it's just me and like two salespeople. You have a much bigger team, and what are you? Give us a vibe check. Like, what are, as your team and your conversations are coming back to you? Where are we on the adoption cycle for this agentic commerce? What are Are people, what are they worried about? What are they excited about? Give us what are some of the things that come up as you're having all these conversations? What's in the mind of the CDO or the exec at your customer base?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, like it really does vary, right? It depends on what digital maturity model that customer is on. So I would say most customers really want to be at conversational commerce. That's where they're comfortable. They see the experience being elevated. They see the conversion happening. Some are ready to build in Agentic, and they're just figuring out what does that look like. Does it, and who are they partnering with? And when we think about the future, and what do I predict for Agentic? Because I get asked that all the time, and I would say it's absolutely, we're in the era now, and it's just figuring out how to do it best for you as a merchant and for your customer experience. And does that, and I would say value your partner. And I consider, Rezolve AI one of your most strategic partners, because we have a closed LLM, and you can do lots of things with the other great partners like Gemini and OpenAI and many others. However, if you have both, then you can really harness the use cases and have that level of security, and know what that output will be. So I would say it depends on the maturity model. And then we're talking through the guardrails of that. What does that look like when you're talking the world of agent to agent, and how do you really protect your brand, and that customer experience in that? Also, security, of course, is top of mind always, and that level of accountability. And then I kind of geek out coming from Microsoft, in that level of compliance, making sure there's compliance in the background, that you can understand the maintenance of that, that you can have the compliance elements for your company, and also that's visible to consumers, so everyone knows kind of what that transaction really looks like. So I think that transparency and that buy-in of I opt into this is incredibly important.
One thing I hear from, and this is mostly on the brand side, but one concern I hear is, oh my God, it's a race to the bottom. There's going to be all these agents out there, and people are just, all they're going to do is their agents just like going to just like hammer me for a lower price, and it's going to be, and everyone's going to just like use these agents to look for the lowest price everywhere, and it's going to be a race to the bottom.
I think it's only the race to the top. I think it's only going to be growth, and I think it's only going to be expansion, for everybody participating. And why? Again, I go back to the core of that on two sides. One, the consumer is soon to be Generation Alpha, and they are digital, and they're going to understand how an agent can represent them in the best light possible. I would also say that as a merchant, you need to pick the right partners and understand what you're building. And if you understand what you're building, then you understand the guardrails, and you understand how you can make the best end-to-end experience happen. So I would say that I think that's a similar wave to what happened when the internet was launched. It's a similar wave when apps launched on mobile phones, and people didn't know what you could and couldn't use, and what was tracked, and where your P1 data was. But I would say that as a community, and this is where I really value the tech journey that I've had the opportunity to lead in, is having that governance models and that level of trust, and putting that framework around what we build and why, and how we move it forward. I think it's the best way to be future fit. And where we build out that level of trust and transparency, as a community. So I think we have more work to do to get agentic era and agentic commerce where it needs to be, but we're at the brink of it, as we know. But again, when you partner with the right people, Rezolve AI, Microsoft, Google, I think you're in great hands.
Another one I get a lot, and this comes from everyone, and there's a set of vendors out there that are kind of trying to use fear, uncertainty, and doubt to kind of sell their goods. And typically it starts with Cloudflare, but they're kind of like all the infrastructure companies. They're basically saying, oh my God, there's so many evil, bad bots out there. You're going to have nothing but fraud, and your total site's going to be destroyed if you don't block all the bots. And then, so I get that question a lot. Do you get that one as well? And then you're also in checkout, so I imagine there's also downstream you probably get a fraud question of like, what do you do about agentic fraud?
But again, I think that's kind of where you have to test it, build it, and have all your layers including your security layers, including your, the way you identify, the way that you categorize, the abilities, and then again, what you're willing to do on the back end of it when things happen. I mean, back in the day when we tested green screens on manual testing scripts, I was a system. My first role out of university, I was a systems analyst, and that was quite dry. But I, as a human, on these manual testing sheets, couldn't possibly think about all these hiccups. However, we're now in the era where we have lots of tools, we have incredible technologies, we have, again, amazing smart partners like Microsoft and Google and ourselves, that can help on the journey, and then really just making sure that those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But again, it's a learning journey, and we have to be in a continuous learning space, and that includes being able to pivot fast, being able to think security and trust always, and also thinking about how you do that. And again, going back to our LLM is really why we differentiate ourselves, is because it's closed, it doesn't hallucinate, and we can really map out what those key success milestones look like for your consumer journeys.
You kind of just hinted at it, but this is kind of a nerd question. As I was doing research, I saw you guys are on the AWS marketplace, the GCP. I didn't look at Azure. It seems like if you're on two, you'd probably be on three, and you probably know some people at Microsoft. And
Yeah, I did.
those marketplaces are usually selling to like IT groups, but it seems like you're selling more to the business owner. Like is that a part of your strategy to get to the business group? And how does what is there a buyer there as well?
Well, I think, again, my go-to-market strategy for my teams are to be in enterprise retail, consumer goods, food, and hospitality. And when you're dealing with enterprises, you're dealing with all of those personas plus procurement plus IT. Now, again, I'm a technical geek, so I always love the IT department, and I'll always be in the mix of the CIO or the CTO's office. But we also know that the digital offices are playing a big role in being that front to the business to deliver and the build in the IT space. So to be in consultative selling now, you have to be in both, and you have to be in multiple rooms, in lines of businesses in any enterprise company. And we also know that budgets are no longer siloed to the P&L of one organization. Oftentimes it's split, because they're all invested in the outcome of that. And we know e-commerce is just that. I mean, we know marketing plays a really significant role in that. We know merchandising and product does, supply does, of course, IT does, and VPs of commerce oftentimes. And that's a direct line to 20 to 30% of their revenue conversion. So it's at board level, and who their brand and what merchandising has come up. And also, we know, again, going back to data monetization, being king and queen, understanding who your consumers are and what their lifestyle is, where they're coming from, and why they're choosing a particular category or brand, and are they a repeatable, loyal customer that's coming back? And how do you double down on that? And how do you extend the cart, in e-commerce, but bringing them to a different experience in foot traffic as well? So I would say, that's been the joy of sharing that kind of level of cross-functional collaboration with my teams, and how to do that at enterprise level. But it's fun to see it in enterprise level too, because, again, this is an era where we're moving faster than ever. We have to be smarter than ever. We have to have business fluency, because what we do has to matter in terms of revenue and return on value. Pain to change and effort needs to come with reward. And we bring that, and I make sure that our teams are tracking that as well. So I feel very proud of where we're going, and there's more to do in market on that. Now, some of the retailers can be brick and mortar, and they're not quite there. So it's also being future fit means we have to teach and lead how to do that. And oftentimes they want us to do that in chunks, in phased approach, which is absolutely okay, because we can do that in a 12-week period, show them return on value and a success milestone, and continue the partnership. And again, that's bringing Microsoft and Google and AWS, depending on what a customer's preferences is on the journey as well. And we work with TCS, and we work with Accenture, and it's a great partner community. And I think that's also something that our customers need to consider on how they better leverage the mastery of their partners, and how to bring everyone to the table to build something that will be future fit.
I can tell you're an enterprise salesperson. I want to take out my credit card. Stop. Let's talk. You kind of brushed on this, but I always like to end on kind of prediction, and I know you're busy, and I'm getting you out like with a kind of as promised. Where do you think? And I realize also that you're a public company, so this is just about agentic commerce. This has nothing to do with Rezolve, the company. Where do you see do you have any kind of predictions of agentic? I know you're very bullish, but anything we've seen all the data around holiday 25, where like the Salesforce and Adobe data showed this just incredible growth. It's continuing. Do you have any predictions for holiday? One data point would be like this next holiday that's already top of mind. And then I always like to kind of think 2030. It's kind of far enough out that it's not too crazy, but it's still pretty far in AI time. Any thoughts around either of those two things?
Yeah, I think again, I think e-commerce will continue to grow. However, the most current e-com sites are outdated. so again, I keep saying that Generation Alpha is going to be worth 5 trillion in buying behavior in 2030. So when you look at 2030, you absolutely have to be top of class in your digital experience, because they were born digital, they're a swipe community, and they're 2 clicks or less. But they are loyal, because when they've been on TikTok and they've been on social, we know that conversions are even higher. Now that's a small conversion, but we know that will only increase. So I would say we are in the era of agentic. I believe that all of us as humans, because of the era of information and digital information, we're smarter and we're faster. So the projects and the builds that we used to work on that were 1 to 3 years are now 3 months to 6 months. And I encourage everyone to look at their partner strategy and to expand on that, not only as a merch with CPGs understanding the omni-channel of retailers, but looking beyond that at your tech partners, looking beyond that at those that can bring you to a higher level of mastery and to help you with your checks and balances moving forward, as we're in a new era of agentic, which no one's, which will continue to evolve, and we can continue to pivot and grow together ultimately. So I would say keep your partners close, and understand that data monetization is king and queen. So really understand the full cycle of your consumers and your products, the back end of your margins and your products and the availability of your products, and the front of who you're selling to and why. Be very intentful in that, because your consumers want that personalization and they want you to know them, especially that Generation Alpha and Z. So I think we're only going to be more into data. I think we're going to have to be faster. We're going to have a 360 hyper personalization approach in everything that we deliver, to stand out as well. And agentic is here to stay.
Thanks for the predictions, and thanks for your time. I imagine I looked on your LinkedIn. I didn't see that you're out there writing a ton on there. Is the best place, if people want to learn more about what you guys are up to, go to the website? I know there's a corporate blog area. Is that kind of, and you have a lot of really good white papers and that kind of thing. Is that where you would direct folks to learn more?
Rezolve.com, absolutely. Rezolve.com is where it's at. And follow us on Rezolve AI. So please, more to come from us, and from me as well, and my team, and also Dan and the wider C-suite as well. We look forward to chatting with you again, and I really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate you coming on, and have a great day.
Follow, rate, and share to stay up to date with Retailgentic, your guide to the future of AI shopping agents.